Are you saying you faked with me?
Yeah.
I just had sex, and it felt so good.
Wrong. Now you're single.
What do you know about sexual relations?
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
I'm a little worried about being a slut.
You're listening to the Come With Us podcast, presented by Darling Way, talking the good, the kinky, and the ugly. Here are your hosts, Beth, Aaron, and Tina.
Hello, hello, my darling and sexy friends. So glad you're coming with us today. We've got the naughty, fun, sexy education we all wish we'd had years ago, and the conversations that everybody at every other table always wants to lean over, stop their own conversations, and listen in on. Glad you're here to be part of it with us. I'm Beth Darling, your sexy genius. I'm here with the hot, handsome, and a little bit quiet today, Aaron. But I think once we start talking about porn, you're going to liven right up because, come on, it's porn. Porn gets a rise out of almost everybody, doesn't it? And, of course, there's Tina, oh, my goodness, who is just, what she's got to say about porn sort of astonishes me. I learn something all the time from them. And I got to tell you, in this episode, y'all are the pros because I've never searched for porn online, I think. I might be mistaken, but I swear I cannot remember, except like on, Kinky, on, FetLife.
I mean, calling us pros makes it sound like we both have shot actual porn. We're not that kind of pros. We just have actually watched more porn than you have.
Well, and frankly, you've shot more amateur porn than I have, too.
Well, we'll get to that one in a different episode.
Oh, okay. But I'm glad. Again, we all have things we can learn from one another. So, yeah. Are you excited and ready to talk about porn, Tina?
Yes.
Do I need to take your computer away, or are you going to be watching porn while we're talking?
No. I'm fully alert, erect.
Oh, erect. I love that because after we recorded one of our other episodes, I can't remember what it was even about. We look over and Tina is totally caught up.
It was our threesome episode.
It was our threesome episode?
Yeah, because she was watching actual clips of amateurs having threesomes and then was like, oh, okay.
Oh, my gosh.
This looks more fun than I thought it did.
Oh, right. There you go.
So,
okay. That's what happens when we have computers, right? You never know what somebody's doing. They're like, oh, I'm working really hard. Hard being the operative word, right? So, ha. All right. So today we've got, let's see. We always try and start these conversations off based on some sort of research or some sort of article or current event or things because we don't want to just give you bullshit. We know a lot, but we also like to see what's out in the media. So one of the things that I read was that according to the media, that there are 5 main ideas on porn. And I thought we would sort of go through those just as sort of thing. So one thought is that porn is addictive. The other counter thought to that is porn is good for relationships. Using porn constitutes adultery. Using porn makes a partner feel inadequate. Or porn changes our expectations about sexual behavior. So those are the 5 things I would like to kind of cover today. And then I think one of the other questions that we had that's come up for some of us is what to do when you and your partner have different tastes in porn. And that is a valid question and I think is probably happening more and more these days. Just like I like comedies and some people like violent movies. So, all right. So can we start with the big one? Let's get the big ugly out of the way. And that porn as addictive. Do we think porn is addictive?
I mean, it can be, certainly. We talked about this earlier. From the problem with now the internet and everything being there to click the button is you have websites like Pornhub out there who have modeled their entire setup after stuff like YouTube. And what happens to people who work 9-to-5 jobs or different types of jobs? You find yourself sometimes going through a YouTube wormhole where you'll be like, oh, I wanted to watch that funny clip from Saturday Night Live, and you watch it, and then it's like, well, if you like that, you're going to like this. And then you end up looking at the clock, and you're like, oh, shit, I just wasted 2.5 hours of work just watching video after video. I think the same thing can be said for porn, is that you all of a sudden find yourself in a porn wormhole to where you go, oh, shit, I just spent an hour and a half of my life watching porn, and watching 18 different videos, and I mean, I could have done a lot more things that are way more productive with my time than that.
Okay, I guess, and that makes sense. I
feel like that would be the I guess entry level into developing an addiction for it.
Yeah, because I think that is kind of like people can waste time doing all sorts of things. And so probably it lulls you. Like if I sit down to watch TV, then I could be there for hours and stuff. It's like, it takes so much effort to turn the damn thing off and leave the couch. So I think that's it. So it lulls you into a complacency. But okay, I guess if you're at work, you can't jerk off. But let me just tell you. So I'm not big into porn, but I love erotica. So I like my porn written is the way to do it. But if I read a sexy story and I read for, I don't know, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, I'm telling you, like, I need to go find someplace and go self-pleasure. That tension builds up and I need a release. So then when I've had that release, I don't start reading erotica again. Like then I'm kind of done. So if you're watching porn, especially for a man, I would think it would build you up and then you'd need to go jerk off someplace and then you'd be done. Can you really just watch porn for 2 hours?
I mean, some people probably can, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, this is just from what I just treat it like a YouTube wormhole because there's been plenty of times where I've been on YouTube and I start off with one clip and then all of a sudden I'm watching like, oh, this is what happened behind the scenes during the shooting of Tombstone.
Yeah,
and then I get fucking lost and I look up and I'm like, oh shit, where did my afternoon go? I was supposed to mow the lawn and clean the dog. And
yeah, but do you do that with porn?
I don't really. I mean, I've done it like a couple of times, but it's not something that has happened enough that I would say, but I can see people doing it. Yeah.
Okay.
Every now and then, it does happen where you're watching something and it's like, oh, hey, if you liked what this porn star did here, come watch her do it here with a different.
Right. Oh, no, that's what I'm saying. I get that. I just don't understand. I would think orgasm would interrupt it, but I don't know. What do you think, Tina?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that porn it can be an addiction, but in a different way.
And for anybody out there, by the way, I'm going to interrupt. We are not psychologists. We are not talking about addiction according to the DSM-5 manual. We're not trying to do all of that sort of bullshit. We understand that there's all sorts of different, psychological and scientific, and we're not talking about that. So we're using addiction in sort of a more familiar, more casual thing. So please don't argue with us just on the actual, stringent rules and stuff, because we understand for anybody out there is not a definition or a diagnosis for porn or sex addiction currently in the psychological society. Just FYI. All right, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. I certainly think that you can be addicted to porn, probably. Like, I'm sure you use it as like a replacement or like as a crutch for, not going out or finding a relationship or finding someone. And then I'm sure there's like some sort of bonding, something that you feel attached. Like people become very attached to like their favorite porn stars, and like I guess it's no different really than maybe fetishizing about like a actress or somebody like that. But like, I mean, I have no issue against like porn. Like I watch it all the time. I think it's great.
Right. But we're not talking judgment
I do
here.
think that I can see in cases. I'm not sure I've known anyone or like known about. Maybe I've met people, but not known about it, who have that sort of like intense need to, or like find. I think where you cross it, like addiction, to me, is, or where it becomes problematic is when you stop, like when you leave reality, like you forego, I think relationships, and you like.
How about making that broader then? How about when you don't live, when you're not following in the values that you have for yourself?
Sure.
Right? When you are not paying enough time, enough attention to work or your friends or your relationship as you would ordinarily like to. Right?
And I think being obsessive over anything can cause issues.
Exactly.
So just like
it could be football every Saturday or every Sunday. If you watch college and professional football and you can't hang out with your family because there's a football game on and that's all the time, to me, that might be a bit of an issue.
It's when something dominates your life and it basically causes you to forego other responsibilities or activities that normally you would enjoy and you would actually partake in. Like video games can be a big thing.
Yes.
A lot of people, and I'm not doing a psychology deep dive on there, but I could have swore there was an article a couple years ago that they had proved that playing a video game, you get that dopamine release of doing a job well done, like you would get from doing physical activity when you level up in a video game or defeat some level on a video game. That it causes that same dopamine release. That's why people continue to play and all the time play. Like, I play video games at home, but I don't find myself like having to. I play maybe 5 minutes, 15 minutes a day at most.
Yeah.
And I know if I get like 15 minutes of downtime, I'll sit there, I'll play for a couple minutes, and I'll look at the clock and go, okay, I got to get on to my next thing. But there's a lot of people who, just like with porn, where you get that type of chemical release. I mean, there's anything.
Yes.
Alcohol, tobacco, narcotics. There are certain things that trigger chemical releases in your body, in your brain. And when you find that chemical release, some people do not want to let go of it and constantly chase it.
Right. And they're actually, so what they're looking at now, by the way, is they are trying to decide if some people are more prone, whether it's genetics or whatever, but they are finding that perhaps for people with what we would casually say as addictive personalities, that there are parts of their brain that just get more lit up and that get more response from certain things, and that then triggers this desire for more and more, etc. So there are definitely, again, I know actually one person in the whole world who can smoke a cigarette every now and then and not be hooked. But so many other people smoke a couple of cigarettes and then they're hooked. So we all have different things. But so there may be some physical or genetic component. But otherwise, yeah, I think you're right that there can be, it triggers that dopamine. And I have to tell you, there was one study that was so interesting, and it showed, again, they were trying to figure out, is porn addiction really such a thing? And because with drugs, we know that there's a physical something. Your body goes into delirium tremens if you stop alcohol, if you're an alcoholic and stuff. But with porn, so they showed people pictures of a naked person, a naked woman, and they showed men. Naked woman next to a pair of cowboy boots. And they did this over and over. And so men would get turned on by the naked woman, and obviously cowboy boots only if you've got a boot fetish. But they did this so long to the same people that pretty soon then they took the naked woman out of the picture and they just showed the cowboy boots. And what they found was that after a certain time, almost all of them, now the time might vary, but the men would start getting aroused just from the cowboy boots. Because in their brain, right, our brain links things. It's the same reason we can see a word that's missing a couple of letters and we'll know that word. We won't even notice the letters are missing because our brain fills in the picture for us, if you will. So saw a pair of cowboy boots, filled in a naked woman. So from that standpoint, you can see where our brain just gets used to things and then wants more in pictures. So I don't know. All right. So let's talk about, so if one of our listeners is out there and we know that y'all are like wondering, okay, am I using porn too much? Is this a problem? I think our answer is really, if you feel like you're losing out on something else in your life, then that's probably the sign that it's an issue.
Yeah. I mean,
is that a pretty reasonable one?
With your expertise, we've talked before about men's health, and men need how many orgasms a week to try to stave off as much prostate problems as possible?
Yeah, the American Medical Association says 3 orgasms a week for men.
Okay, so do you define it as a problem if they're using porn all 3 times that they masturbate during the week?
Okay, so here's the thing. I would say that it's not necessarily a problem. Like, porn itself isn't the problem.
No, but the dependence on it. Like, if that's
what
they're
I say
using.
is that, right, with orgasm in general, male or female, I always encourage people to orgasm in different ways because, again, the brain wants to create this one shortcut. Porn, orgasm. Well, then you try and do fuck your wife. And the brain's like, no, give me the porn. I want the porn. Get me back on this track. I'm so used to it. So from that standpoint, I think they're just better off if they are if they're fantasizing, if they're, reading something, et cetera. Stand up, sit down, left hand, right hand, different positions, et cetera. So from that standpoint, but otherwise, just the fact that they need something else to stimulate them to get to orgasm, I don't think that in and of itself is a problem. Could be a magazine rather than a video or
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have much else to say about this. Like, I certainly think when you're not in a relationship, you obviously rely probably on porn more than you do maybe when you're in a relationship.
Yeah.
I would say generally, you should be maybe that's just like the way, like if you have a partner, maybe like you don't always, like I know I just have never experienced this, but I certainly know that like, no, that's not true. Two things. I know I've never been in a relationship where the guy has always needed to watch porn to get off. I'm just talking from my perspective, or the girl. But I do know that for guys, like their sex drive can like increase a lot if you watch porn more like with them. Like in my personal experiences.
Oh,
and this
they can get more turned on, right?
Yeah, this
because
isn't just one guy or anything like that. Like, so I think that it just depends like what your, you know.
Well, and that's interesting. So I think maybe part of it is that because men and women in our world, we're taught to really try to push and repress all of our sexual urges. Like that's not good, or there's some line that's okay or not. So I think men have spent a lot of time trying not to get turned on all the time, and women too. And so therefore it takes a while to let that desire come up, bubble up to the top. But porn basically opens the flue and just lets it all come out. And that maybe that's part of it, that they feel freer to do. Otherwise they're trying to overcome, okay, is it okay for me to get turned on? Is she wanting it? And you know, blah, blah, blah. So
I mean, it's obviously something you have to discuss. Like you just put on porn with someone and be like, think that that's going to be okay. Like I talked to this guy I'm seeing last night, and I was like, have you ever been with a girl? Like, have you been with girls who don't like it? And he's like, yeah. You know, like it's probably something that's like girls who think it's like not okay in the bedroom or whatever.
Okay, well, so then we'll move on to that one in a second.
And then there's I have one more like commentary, but I think it may be towards something else you have on your list.
Okay,
so
then let's finish up this idea of whether or not porn is addictive. And wait, I had this thought and it flew through my brain, which is if you're not in a relationship and you're using porn on a regular basis, again, just realize that your brain is cutting some neuropathways, is one of the scientific terms, to orgasm that again associates it with porn. So even if you're not in a relationship, it's not because I'm judging porn. I'm just saying for your own health and for your own ability to orgasm in all sorts of different enjoyable situations. Agree with that. I want you to find different ways to do it and not be indulging in porn too much.
I can 100% attest on that.
Yeah.
Like there was for times when I'm not in, like this is like totally anecdotal for me. When I'm not in a relationship and I just watch, like porn will become the way I get off.
Yeah.
And you have to teach yourself, like you have to then reprogram yourself to be able to like, and the way you like don't do that, and what I've like learned over the years, that's how I used to do it. It's like sometimes you can watch porn and get off, especially if you need like quick whatever.
Right.
But sometimes you just need to like use a toy, use your fingers, and like it'll take longer, and like you know,
and just your head, and just use your imagination,
just your head, because you're totally right. You then become like completely programmed to only orgasm when you watch porn, and that's.
And one interesting thought, and this is kind of what I would suggest. If you stop tuning into your body because you're watching porn so much, or anything, I think that is a big clue. So when you are pleasuring yourself, I encourage, even if there's porn on, tune into your body. Actually start noticing what all the different parts of your body are feeling and sensing, even your cock or your pussy, because it's so easy to get lost in the world of porn just watching, where your body simply becomes a tool. Just like I'm talking into a microphone and I have no idea what the microphone's feeling, but I want you to actually focus on your body. And I think that that's important whenever you're doing, even if you're with a partner or porn, but that we can lose. And then I would tell you, to me, one kind of significant sign of porn might be a problem. So let's call it porn as a problem rather than addictive, is if you orgasm, if you're with a partner and you just can't wait to go back to the porn. Then you might think about it, because maybe you're with the wrong partner. If you're with some, nasty person, then I don't blame you to get away, go watch, anything you want on TV or something. But if you're getting physical satisfaction in your real life, and then there's still this desire for more porn, that to me would be a sign that I would start thinking about my usage and my dependency, if you will, on it. So, okay. All right, let's move on. So now let's go to the flip side. Porn is good for relationships. Oh, and the reason, by the way, that they had these 5 kind of main themes in the media is because science and research often relies on the media to sort of fuel it and to prove it one way or the other. And then the media relies on the science. So it becomes this sort of chicken or the egg that we cycle through. But as long as we focus on only these 5 things, then they're not looking at others. And there may be others, but for right now, we're just on these. So, all right, porn. Do we think porn is good for your relationship? Aaron, do you and your wife enjoy porn together?
It's been a long time, but we have in the past.
Whose suggestion?
I think it's gone both ways at times.
Oh,
just
I like
depending
that.
on what's
Good.
going on. Yeah, it's been a long time since it appeared in our relationship. Usually it's more of a written word kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But yeah, there've been times where both of us, either one of us has suggested it. Okay. But I don't think it's a bad thing for relationships. Again, if, like you said, if it's something that you need that to have sex with your partner, that you need to be watching porn, that's a problem, because you should be able to focus on your partner. And if they're not getting you there, then you got to address what the hell's going on.
Yeah, but maybe if you get some ideas, and you both get turned on, and especially because the biggest complaint from people who have been together a long time is that life is so busy, and these days life has been really stressful for a lot of people, and it's hard to just flip our own switch from, oh gosh, reality to, okay, now let me get turned on and think about, real pleasure in my body. But porn can absolutely help people do that. It's just, again, I think it's really hard to find people who don't get somewhat aroused from almost any porn, even if it's not the greatest quality, or forgetting different types. And we'll talk about that. All right. What do you think? So how do you think it's good for relationships? Tina?
I think it's another aspect you can bring into your sex life in a relationship, but I don't think that it is necessary. It's not something that everyone should or needs and stuff. It's just something that if both people enjoy, I think that there's some boundaries you have to set in certain aspects. I think that don't go out, this has happened to me, and I'm sure other girls can relate.
Women.
Okay, some semantics on my end, but okay.
Yes. Chicks.
Hooking up with a guy,
yeah,
and let's say you're not facing him,
yeah,
reverse cowgirl or whatever,
yeah,
giving head, anyways, whatever, and the guy starts watching porn while you're doing it. That I think is, it's happened, and I know it happens.
Yes.
It's happened to other girls. I know it happens. It's fine. It's not the end of the world, but at the same time, it does, if it's something that you haven't talked about before,
yeah,
and it's something that you're obviously trying to hide, it's not something that, it's you're doing it on your phone and stuff. Number one, I think if a guy ever, picks up his phone while you're having sex, you should immediately be like, what the fuck are you doing?
Or anybody picks up, right, unless it's to emergency, oh no, something, I agree.
But if it's something you agreed on before,
right,
whatever, that's fine. But I think that is not okay. You
right.
have to...
How did you feel when that happened?
You feel you're not doing, and you're not getting them there.
Right. You're not enough.
Yeah.
You can't help but feel like they're not really pleased, that they're not that into you, even if they're into you, which is a really kind of lousy feeling. So,
right.
Yeah, I think that would be pretty awful. I would.
It's again, I don't think it's something that you have to discuss.
Yeah, but it would just be if you were busy fucking somebody and they were watching, not that you would be in public or something, and they're watching somebody else walk by, or they're watching the news and trying to fuck. And
I've fucked watching basketball games, trying to hit the over.
Yeah, but that would be the fun part. That's where you're doing it together. Not
really.
Okay, well. Okay,
but at the same time, it's something you can laugh about, because the guy was like, "Oh, I was like, can I face the other way? Just 2 points away from the over. The game's almost over. I'll ride you while I watch. It's not the and then I was funny. Really into it after I hit the over.
At least you included them in it, as opposed to it trying to be whatever. So
I think it's totally healthy. I think most of my relationships, albeit whatever they are, porn is somehow, or I'm open enough that I can admit that if the guy doesn't want to watch porn, I'll tell him, he knows that when I'm by myself I get off, sometimes to it, so it doesn't, or
so
I send videos.
Have you ever had a new guy who was off put by your desire to watch porn?
I've
Or-
never met. I mean,
No?
I don't honestly think it's something that generally comes up before, like, you probably are seeing that or, like, have hooked up with them at least, like, a few times.
Okay. Because
So-
I think there are women my age, and this is the difference. But, women in our 40s and 50s, I think there's a lot of concern that if we tell somebody, oh, we really like watching porn, that they're going to, quote, judge us.
I mean, I don't say, like,
And-
oh my God, I love, like it's something that's,
but
like.
you do love porn.
I do like porn. I wouldn't say, like, it's absolute, like, I think that porn has certainly helped my sex life out a lot. Like, I can only see it as, like, beneficial to me in general. Like, I think
Right.
you shouldn't be learning your sex life from porn, but certainly I think
Well,
it's made me.
Because where else would you learn about sex? That's the sad part.
But okay, sure. But
yeah.
I think it certainly has, like, increased my aware, especially, like, it depends, like, what type of if you're just watching, like, the generic acting porn, whatever. But I think it definitely opens your mind to so many different types of sex, different types of, like, having, like, getting turned on by things you, like, didn't think you would get turned on, trying new things in the bedroom, like,
Okay.
all these types of things.
So that is a very interesting kind of thing. And it sort of ties into that idea about changes our expectations about sexual behavior. And let me tell you, though, there are two different mindsets. There are people who watch porn. Well, there are people who enter life or live life with this is the only way I'm going to think. This is how I think. This is right. And this is all I'm going to see. And it's amazing. So that can be true with porn too. They find that people who are very limited, like if somebody is a very aggressive and misogynistic, then when they watch porn, they're going to watch more things like that reinforce that idea that women are bad, that women are sluts, that women are to be used, that it's a very aggressive kind of behavior. They're not going to watch the lovey-dovey, oh my gosh, you make me feel so good and tender stuff. So what they watch, because of their mindset first, is absolutely just a reflection of what they're already thinking, and then it reinforces it. But to your point, if people go into it with a willingness and an open-mindedness to say, I don't have to love every part of it, but I'm going to go see. I'm going to see if there's something new that appeals to me, if there's something that turns me on, maybe something my partner and I can do together. Then with that mindset, you're absolutely right. Then it can really fuel and enhance their sexy life. If they have a way of then talking with a partner about it, a way of processing it. Yeah. Because otherwise, my beef with porn as education is that I say, like, learning about sex from porn is like learning how to drive from the Fast and the Furious. But Fast and the Furious, kids see all the time, but they see people driving in real life, so they understand. When we say, oh, that's only a movie, they understand that, but then they know, oh, that doesn't happen. Okay. That doesn't happen. You don't do a U-turn in the middle of a New York City street and get away with it and shit like that.
And I think that, again, I'm not talking, like, the thing about porn, which is great today, is there's so much porn out there. And, like, I would say I personally enjoy watching people who I think, like, who are, it's not really porn, like, much more like amateurish stuff, much more where I personally think that, I mean, it may not be true, but it looks like to me these people are getting off, like, these people are actually enjoying what they're doing. Not like this, like not that porn stars don't like what they do, or not that they don't get off, like, I'm sure it happens all the time, but at the same time, that kind of porn, I agree with you, that learning sex from that is like
learning to drive from the Fast and the Furious, because they don't show you the time in between. They don't, do the reality.
But there's
just
so
crazy.
much porn out there of, like, real people, like real people who are really enjoying doing lots of different types of things, and watching that, not only, like, does it turn you on, but it does, like, show you different ways of like, things that you might enjoy, or things that, like, showing real people doing these things also helps you to, like, maybe realize that, I can do this, like,
permission.
all this kind of stuff. So
yeah.
I think that you're totally right. It depends, like, where, and I think as when you start watching porn, and, like, I'm not advocating anyone under 18 to watch it, but, like, let's just say that most of the time it can, like, most people, I would say personally, from my experience, this is my experience, most people I knew before the age of 18 had watched some sort of porn, and that's just the reality of it.
Right. And to me, actually, that's really scary, because again, when I was younger and for many generations, like boys getting caught up, they would find a Hustler, like that was extreme, or they would find some other magazine that was like big boobs and big butts, and we were like, oh, that's so graphic and raunchy, but that was still a very limited part, and it was sort of, these days it's like the intro, because now what happens is so many people do stumble onto really hardcore, outrageous kinds of, and that's a little bit scary, I think, for early on. But anyway, that's a different.
And I kind of meant to make this point when we were talking about the addictive thing. Like, that's the kind of the problem with the technology that we have is, I feel like, yes, there were porn addicts back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, but at that time you had to go down to a store, buy a magazine, buy a videotape, buy another video. Like, most people, when you've watched, like, if you've watched, like, okay, say you bought an hour or a 2-hour VHS back in 1985 that was porn.
Right.
After you watch those 2 hours, like, yeah, you can enjoy watching it again, but you're not going to watch it over and over on loop to where it becomes an addiction. Like, you always had to have, there were more steps between, I need to get more porn. Okay, then you got to put pants on, you got to get out of you got to go to the ATM and get cash, you got to get in your car, you've got to get to the store, you got to go through all the selection, you got to pick
there were
out
more
what you,
barriers to entry.
Now,
and we used to laugh. If somebody had a trunk full of porn, that was a lot, right? But it was still,
I disagree. I think I don't disagree, but I think porn, especially when I was younger, and I'll admit it, like, I probably started watching porn, again, not advocating for it, at probably around the age of like 14, 15. So I would say, and
that's because you grew up with computers.
You grew up with the internet.
Sure, I grew up with the internet.
Right,
okay,
it's
that's
a whole
fine.
difference.
But I don't think that it was a negative thing. Like, I don't think, I certainly saw some hardcore stuff, but again, I think if you can, like, it's hard. Like, I think if you can, I can see where it would be an issue. I can see where you dive in and you then associate your, like, sex, like, going forward with that kind of stuff. But from my experience, it helped me a lot to be comfortable with my sexuality, discover it more, like, learn. Even, like, I would say, like, I knew what an orgasm was for a female because I'd had them before I was watching porn.
Yeah.
But really seeing, like, another woman having an orgasm that was real to me, or like in somewhat like
that is huge. That is the most important thing I think you've said, because I hadn't thought of it, right? As somebody who literally did not have an orgasm, was having sex and did not orgasm until after I gave birth the first time. And I'm not the only one. I've heard this from other people too, by the way. You're right. I never knew what it was. I never knew what to look for. Yeah. And so I didn't realize that I was missing it.
And
that is a very important part. Right. So, like, that is very important. Thank you for that.
Like, after I started having sex, like, oh, it's supposed to be like that. Like, it's not just supposed to be when I finger myself, like, that happens. Like, it's actually supposed to be more, like, it's supposed to happen in all these different ways that I had never tried, but I knew what I was going to go into. Like, I was expecting something, like, closer to that than I was to what probably most teenagers or experience was. So I think that porn has done, like, tremendous things for women's, like, I'm just going to come from my perspective. For women, for young women,
for you.
I think for me, I would say it in a healthy way, it has really helped me to be, like, to help me out in my sexuality and, like, being more liberated and, like, understanding, like, how to have good sex and how to ask for the things you want and stuff. So
okay, so I would say that's a very good point. And because obviously we need better sexy education for people of all ages. And
it's just hard to regulate. I get why this is an issue.
But so maybe that's it. Maybe that for couples that working together and thinking about, okay, what do we want to focus on? Why don't we look at different women having orgasm, how differently they do it? That could be, my gosh, we could put a whole sort of course together for people to kind of
like
go
squirting.
to study.
I've never really known, like, I know squirting is obviously
so
now,
porn,
but there was a time where I went through, like, a whole squirting phase where I was, like, really turned on my squirting and, like, I really got into it. I was like, okay, I knew exactly, like, what, like, it just kind of fascinated me, and, like, and then I wanted to try it out, and, like, I've done it a couple of times, since then. But I would say, like, porn really helped me figure that out. So I would say, yeah, so that's how porn can be good for relationships. If you go into it knowingly, you go into it with some open-mindedness, you do it with full knowledge and consent of your partner, and you have to have a really
a good sense of trust with your partner to start really sharing so that you process things instead of soaking it up. Because otherwise, for example, her husband could be like, oh, I really love watching women squirt. And she's thinking, oh shit, I don't squirt. Oh, I don't squirt, and feeling less than,
yeah.
right? And that's that idea of that, it can make your partner feel inadequate. So we'll come back to that.
No.
So, all right, let's just go through for a second and talk about, using porn constitutes adultery. I think I don't think so. None of us think that. And so the only reason I would tell you with that is that if it becomes a secret, again, unless it's a surprise party, I think generally secrets in a relationship, if they're...
or like talking to cam girl, like when you cross the boundary between like just viewer, I guess, voyeur or whatever, or to like someone who's actively like pursuing something to do with that person's star.
Where it's filling something that really... your partner would like to be a part of and to give and stuff. So I think that people know when it is cheating, and it's just about sort of lying, hiding secrecy, and pulling yourself away from your partner instead of pulling you to the partner. That's just the easy thing. Things either bond you closer, bring you together, or they create a wedge and push you apart. So to me, that's the easy part. Any thoughts on that?
I mean, for those who I guess would consider it adultery, I think it's more of a to me it comes more of a self-confidence, self-esteem kind of thing, where you're considering it cheating by your significant other because you think that they need it, and you're not doing, you're threatened by it, basically.
Okay, so maybe it's this idea that maybe if they're actually thinking about sexy with the people they're watching in porn, instead of thinking of sexy with their partner, maybe that's the adultery, in the mind
or that's the other person in the relationship. That's what they think. And,
right, which means
being insecure to thinking that, oh my God, they watch porn. That means that, they don't want me because I'm not good enough, kind of thing.
Okay.
I mean, if you're with someone who's that insecure, then you probably should be careful about, or at least to have great communication about.
Improve your communication.
Yeah,
that's exactly right. Because we have to realize that insecurities, there's two parts, right? There's the person who's feeling them, and then the partner that they're with. And while it's not the partner's responsibility to heal all the insecurities, it is good if they can help address and help them process through and to go forward. So, okay. So I think that's where that line of adultery is. Let's just say it's when thoughts of that sex with others are intruding upon, and again, driving a wedge between you and your partner, or hiding. All right. So then if we go to the fourth category of using porn makes your partner feel inadequate. So then I think it's a question of physicality of it, that people just think, oh, my body doesn't match that, or, oh, I won't do that. Or
why are you turned on by her and not, me?
Oh yeah. Why do you, quote, need porn?
Yeah.
Why can't you just get turned on just by me? Right. That can happen. Men, it can be, oh, look, because all the men in porn have very well endowed cocks, and not necessarily every person around that we're with are going to be there. So, how do you think partners can help with that? Help their partners feel more confident instead of less confident if they're attracted to porn?
I mean, I think one way I would say is, again, in my circumstances, like, you discuss it before, certainly before you start having sex. Like, it's something that's agreed upon. Like, oh, let's watch, or I don't know. I mean, if it's something that you've done before in a relationship and you don't do it all the, and so he just if you have a TV, you can cast off your phone these days, and just put on. I think that's okay if you've done it before and you've talked about it. But, I think it's, to me, like,
what about, I think one way to do, and I think of it too, when just people, you can't help if some beautiful person walks by, men and women, we all look and stare, right? They're beautiful. I'd like to think of it as those are art. That's art. That's beauty. And it is beautiful to look at.
Oh.
But when it comes to fucking, I don't want art. I want the person I love. And that is what becomes beautiful, because it's more than just an outward
I think there's
package.
also, like, for me, another way. I would say if you've had sex that night, like, let's say you've had sex before earlier and it was fine and stuff, and you want to go for round 2, if both men and women, for me too, like last night, for example, we had sex. It was fine. I had an orgasm, couple orgasms. I was fine. But then we want to go round 2. It really turns you on. Like, you know, sometimes when you've had sex, like couple, like, and you've came and stuff, and like you're done. Like sometimes you're just like whatever, like it's. But if you put on some porn and you just start watching it, like that will, at least for me and the person I'm with right now, like that really turned us on, and like we had amazing fucking sex.
But we talked about it. So we know that it can turn on, but what do you do about the insecurities that it could give somebody? Against body styles or performance.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think that if you do it in both, like you have regular sex, which is like, I think if you juxtapose it by also just, you know, getting turned on with that person regularly and then using it in other ways.
Okay, well, I will tell you, as I was so insecure while I was married, and I had good reason for it because he really didn't like me. So, but again, I shouldn't have been with him. But so, again, my insecurities, and I stayed with somebody who just kept me in that place. But I would have felt, okay, sure, first we have sexy, just the two of us, but it's okay. But then, boy, he really gets turned on when there's porn on, meaning I'm not enough, and he's just doing me so he can get to the good stuff.
You really get turned, like and I will.
When you're insecure, you don't get turned on.
I will really preface this. Actually, I had this conversation yesterday with this person. The orgasm that you get from porn is, for me, a little bit different than the orgasm. Like, he asked me, like, do you, like, we had this conversation, like, we talked about it.
Okay, but we're not talking about, we got to stick to inadequacies.
Okay, well, I mean, I can't relate on this, like, insecurity thing, but I can only tell you that it's just a different type of sex for me, and, like, I would, you know, I can't.
Okay, what about you, Erin? Do you think that your wife or you, do either one of you get a little bit insecure, perhaps?
No. I mean, I don't, and she's never expressed any like inklings or hints that it makes her feel inadequate whenever I've done it. I mean, I guess one way to get over the insecurity is like, what if you let your partner take over your choices for that?
Good idea.
Literally,
that's a good idea.
I mean, not only consuming it together, but then if, you know, your significant other says, hey, I'm not in the mood. Okay, cool. I'm going to go get off. Okay, cool. Give me your phone. Or you pull it up on your phone and then send it to them through a message of like, hey, this is what you should go watch. You know, pick something that you know that they're going to like, but at the same time, you going through and observing it, even though you're not turned on, it can give you that feeling of like, well, they're turned on by the fact that I chose this for them, kind of thing. Not an inaccurate or inadequacy of, oh, well, they're not like me. If you're picking it for them, it gives you kind of more control of. You're not going to go look for something that's the opposite of me. You're going to go and you're going to watch what I want you to watch.
Right, and there's not this sense of, oh, you have this preference that's not me. It's this willingness that porn is just kind of porn.
Yeah.
And it's not a particular person or something that you're kind of hooked on.
I also think if you choose this, like, here's I could see insecurity too. Not that this ever happened to me again, but if a guy or girl chooses the exact same type of porn, it's a certain look, a certain person,
yes, that's an
like
issue.
A certain whatever it is, like let's say it's red hair or a certain body type, huge tits, big ass, and you don't have that, then I can see where your insecurities could be like, okay, well, if you pick this literally every single time, why? And like, you obviously like, and it's, you know.
Yes, and that's a good one. So then, and I would suggest, because I think that actually does happen, and I tell people, I think it's because when you eat a lot of ice cream at home and you go out, you don't really need to eat ice cream. Then you might want to have cookies. And so if you tell your spouse, okay, like if you've got a really straight, you know, somebody with a very flat chest, but really great legs and stuff, and then your porn, you want somebody with great big boobs and a great big ass, then you just tell them, like, you're my main meal. This is what I just do just for fun, but I don't want to take her home. I'm not going to switch you two, but why do I want? I've already got the perfect thing. And when you're sincere about that, it's very true. If you really are just settling for your partner and they're not really turning you on, that's a problem. And that is something you really have to figure out. And then I would say maybe that's a good time to stop the porn and to start trying to work with, get some help, get a coach, go to a therapist, and start trying to make sure and figure out what it is and how you can get turned on by your partner, or whether that's the right partner for you, or you should move on. Because I don't think anybody should be settling for their partner. So, all right.
I think that's a. Yeah. I think that it's also like you can say the same thing for women too. Like if you're choosing a certain type of porn all the time with a guy and you're watching it with him and he's like, why the hell are you only watching these like ginormous dicked men?
Yes.
Which is, you're right, generally,
yes.
but yeah.
And switch
it up.
Yeah. And a lot of people have things for race and things. I know that's not appropriate to talk about, but come on. Our sexy desires are not politically correct. So just recognize that and kind of be okay. But do realize that men have really big insecurities also. They just hide them differently. They express them differently. So women, we need to be sensitive and also, yes, be very well aware of what this is. So, okay. So that I think can, that's how people can help make it up. And definitely I think if there are activities and stuff that you really like on porn, for example, threesomes, but you know that you and your partner aren't into it, I think you have to keep talking about that and say, this is my fantasy. Again, this is what people watch violent movies. Again, that's not my thing. I say, what do you like? They're like, I don't want to live violently, but for some reason they enjoy watching a violent movie. We have to make sure that we reinforce that with our partners so that they're clear about what our intent is. And then again, you have to be honest with yourself. Because if there really is part of you that keeps hoping that if you watch these threesomes that she's going to say yes or he's going to say yes, don't keep playing that passive aggressive. Really be honest about it and say, hey, I want to keep watching because I'm hoping that maybe sometime you'll do, and deal with that and see if that works or not. But again, honesty and communication. It's just a question of what we're communicating. All right. And what about when porn does porn change your expectations about sexual behavior and what you want? And this we touched on a little bit in terms of that people who, like, we start out and we look for the porn that we know that we're going to, or we think we're going to like, and different things. But Erin, do you think for you and your wife, did it change anything about what you guys would do together or inspire any different, exciting?
I mean, it inspired, I guess, different things, like different positions and stuff like that. But it didn't change any actual, like, behavior of, well, you should do it this way because that's the way they did it on, in that movie or that video or whatever. Like, no, that's not. That's, again, like watching a rom-com and going, oh, well, you should act exactly like the person in that relationship acted towards me. Bullshit. It's all, like, anything you put on anything. Yeah. Porn, movies, TV shows, it's all fucking written. It's all fucking fantasy. It's not reality. You need to be able to have that disconnect in your brain between what you're seeing and, yes, it can,
Well, and especially when it comes to blowjobs. I have to say, because almost every blowjob in porn, I haven't really watched, but I do see random clips or something. I know it's all about deep throat. And so women, like when they take my sexiedschool.com, my how to blow his mind while loving his body class on blowjobs, they think it's all like, they're like, I got to learn how to deep throat. I'm like,
oh my God,
I don't deep throat.
Trick though fucking works like a peach. I've been using it so much.
Oh my God. Well, thank you. There you go. I'm telling you, my how to blow his mind while loving his body. I'm so fucking proud of that thing. So go to sexiedschool.com and then you can also find the matching or the partner one, which is the art of orally pleasuring her, or you can get them as a twofer. So yeah, for people who, it's not porn, but I promise you, it gets a lot of people turned on. I say I teach a blowjob class, fully clothed, no nakedness, but damn, it inspires a lot of blowjobs. And so thank you, Tina. I'm so glad.
Well too. Like
yes. There are lots of tips and tricks in there.
And
so
I think
go
deep
check it out.
throating is like, it always, in the end, you're going to go too hard and you're going to gag. And then it's just going to be like funny. You have to laugh it off. But you're
and I talk to people about that too.
It's really helped in general, like with like face fucking and all that kind of stuff, which and like has like really so
good. Thank you for that endorsement. That makes me very proud.
Works.
Thank you.
So
yeah, I don't like to bullshit. So, but I think that people need to understand that it is that you don't have to do those things, but if people could get one lesson from porn, this is what I would tell them, or at least women. It's okay to get carried away. And porn stars, they're faking and they're over, whatever. I don't want you to sound like a porn star, but I do want you to realize that it is totally okay, healthy, happy to enjoy what you're doing. Even when it's really weird or gross or something and you're in weird positions, and you can do it. And whatever it is, you just have to do it your way. You do not have to do it exactly like them. You don't have to deep throat. I do that very, very rarely, and I've given great, amazing blowjobs. So it is not all that, and don't be fooled. Again, that's if you saw people driving in real life, but so I want to give you permission to do that. And frankly, if you watch porn and you have questions, send us your questions. So, and please give us a review on this podcast. Let us know what you think. Like Tina just gave me that. I'm feeling like $1 million right now. So help us feel good and let us know what works and what you've learned for this, and send us your questions.
Yeah. And before we get to this final question we have written down here, same thing. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Come With Us Podcast. On Twitter, it's at Come With Us Pod. Email us questions, comments, concerns, confessions. You have the story of that hookup that you don't want to tell anybody else, but you want to tell us. We'll keep your name and everything completely anonymous. Come with us, confessions@gmail.com. Anything you got. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts especially, go through, rate us 5 stars, leave a review, let other people know, so hopefully more and more people keep finding us, because, well, we're enjoying what we're doing, and if it's helping you, we want to be able to help as many people as we can. So, yeah, 5-star rating, leave a review, or if you're listening to us on any of the other streaming services or anything like that, just share.
Tell people, please.
Yeah.
Yes. We really, again, everybody needs some sexy education, and this is it. Yes. And we learn from you, you learn from us, and everybody wins and everybody loves more.
Yep.
What a nice world. Yes. I want to teach the world to love. That's my thing. So, okay. So now let's talk about, so what do you do when your partner likes a different kind of porn than you do?
I mean, Tina, you have probably more experience with this.
Yes.
Yeah, I had never thought of it, but it's the same as...
It happens all the time.
Yeah, because, again, I won't watch any violent movies.
I like pretty aggressive porn, I would say. Things that are, about being dominated, things that are a little rough, things that... But I think I would say, I would call myself not a connoisseur, but I have had a lot of experience in different, like getting turned on with different types of porn. And I think maybe... You are one of the most open-minded and adventurous people I've ever met. Sure.
And I really appreciate that you share that with everybody.
And I think that maybe through that's it's not only getting turned on by I would say being dom, a little bit more violent, a little bit rougher. I have gotten turned on by almost every type of porn, even gay porn. I'm not man on man, not just women on women all the time. Pegging, man on man. For me, I think, and I don't want to say that I'm jaded from I can still get turned on by regular old whatever. That's okay. But I think for me, I just like a little variety. I think that where I am right now, I think I'm in a good sexual place. I experiment with what I want to do. I'm comfortable, and I think that for me, being able to see maybe things that other people would be oh, that's a little bit more out there. Oh, that's stuff like that.
Okay, so maybe, and it's right. So I think that it probably is hard for a partner to be with you, because I think the same thing for me, when the fact that we are open about this stuff is difficult, because most people aren't. Yeah. And so even a very mature, a very experienced person is unlikely to have met somebody who is as open-minded as you, who is as straightforward.
So maybe they just haven't really maybe they do. That's what I'm saying. Maybe you do like these things. You just don't really know that you like these things. But I have,
and it's understanding the intricacies. And maybe, sometimes you're willing to go to the first Major League Baseball game you go to. You almost don't even care what team it is. You just want to go to a Major League Baseball team or go to a stadium. And then once you've done that for several seasons, you're like, okay, now I want to go to some other ones, or I want to see some big games or big names, right? And we do ramp up. There's just a progression for us, and I think all sorts of
and
ways.
I also think for me, like, I think this is also like a little bit of an issue. If you're associating good porn with people who are good looking, that's another thing that I think can become like a little, because then I think that you're just kind of fantasizing about the person than the act itself. To
that's
me.
interesting. Okay, that's a good question.
When I watch porn, for example, if someone is like really displeasing looking to me, like it doesn't really matter unless they're like horribly like,
because you're looking for context.
Yeah, I like what the facial expressions, the way people's bodies react,
their connections, the energy,
all
yes.
that kind of stuff. So
I'm with you, and that's why it's the more quote amateur porn.
Yeah, for
because
sure.
there really is a more personal investment as opposed to a professional. Okay, let's get this scene done. Here's what we're going to do. Here's the choreography, and so it's more polished and everything. So I agree. Okay, so that's an important thing for people to think about. Are you watching porn for somebody to look for somebody that you're going to be imagining, or are you a voyeur? Because a voyeur actually appreciates other people. They don't necessarily put themselves in all the time, but they're just appreciating the visual and the experience of whatever.
For me, a lot easier to imagine myself in a situation that looks real. It looks like someone's bedroom, and it looks like someone is like, that's why Reddit porn is fucking amazing, because it's literally all real people most of the time.
Well,
sometimes it's not.
That's why I like going to parties in real life. I love to see people getting it on. I love to just, when I take a walk at night, I'm looking in windows. I just like to see what's happening in a regular, like in a real thing. I know I don't peep and peep. I mean, I'm from the sidewalk, right? But anyway, okay. So I think that, so when your partner likes a different kind of porn,
but like
if you can figure out why, like what it is, and is it maybe because they're fearful? Is it because they're judging what's happening? Is it, and I think this happens more than people recognize, that there's part of us that thinks we're going to get turned on by that, and we don't want to. We literally don't want to go down that path because it scares us or to ourselves.
Or to ourselves, sure.
That we would get turned on. And so one thing I think is that when it comes to the kinky stuff, when it comes to the BDSM or the more aggressive spanking, paddling, whatever, I think there are a lot of women like me who are like, oh, we want that, but we're so embarrassed and ashamed that we don't want to fuel that. We just want to pretend it's not there in us, so we avoid it. And two, I think there are perhaps people or men who want to be on the receiving end and think that makes them less manly. That's the other thing. And then there are people on the other end that are like, if they see somebody being dominant and stuff, they're like, oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to spank a woman. I've been taught never to hit a woman. I sure as hell am not going to start. So therefore, they're going to avoid that porn because they can't watch it without getting some arousal, and they're not comfortable with it. Because I think when we're just neutral on stuff, then we can just watch it and go, oh, yeah, it doesn't really do much for me.
I will always respect, like, there's so many guys who I've met who don't want to, like dive into certain kink. Like, they don't even think about it without thinking about whether they'd like it or don't like it, you know? And I think that if that could relate to porn also. Like, you just completely blank on or you would like it, but you put it so much out of your head that it's just like
repress and reject. It's the same thing. It's like, I can't go there because I might like it. And I didn't try cocaine when I was a kid because I might like it, and I didn't want to go there, so I stayed the hell away from it.
Again, I'm coming from like a pretty open. I will the respect, probably the hell out, and this is just from like a sexual. The guy who I pegged, the guy who asked it for me, like just flat out, and like we talked about it before. Like he's probably one of the most like he's not manly and like a but you know he is like a
outwardly masculine,
outwardly masculine, loves
male.
Sports, like all this type of stuff, and
but
I wouldn't consider him any more
or
less of a man,
right?
Just because you asked for that. Like honestly, it's kind of sexy, like that you had the confidence to ask for something that no one actually else has. I've never, so.
But pegging these days, that's a whole, there's so many people. That's catching on like crazy.
Okay,
so,
sure. But
I think that's true. And so I think if there is part of you that's really fearful of something and actively, if you're rejecting, then there's a good chance that you're repressing something. And I just encourage you to start thinking about that and recognize if your partner is the one rejecting, that they might be repressing something, and start perhaps talking to them and explore. Because I want each of us to find our sexy pleasure and indulgence and find our edges and to play there happily, safely, and wholeheartedly. And that means I don't want you to avoid something based on fear. And so, yeah, get to know yourself and start noticing what happens and whether you're really fighting turn on and why. Does it make you think, oh, maybe you're not going to be a man if you really like that? Do you think that she's going to feel, so many women, we just feel like, we're just a hole. We feel like we're a slut. We feel like they won't respect us. There are all these things that go through our heads when we do that we reject and repress. So, all right. I think that's kind of,
that ran the full list.
Yay! We did. Okay. Well,
I love this topic.
Yes. I have a feeling we will do more.
This.
Yeah. And we've got we're going to have to bring on some porn stars because we're going to talk about what really happens on a porn set because it's, I think it's so interesting. And anyway, we'll be back to this topic, but this is a good start. So I hope that everybody has a little bit of juice and excitement running through their bodies just thinking about all this stuff and know that it is okay. In fact, it's a good thing. It means we did our job right because we don't want to be just clinical. Good God, sexy should be freaking fun. So at least with us, you should always be having sexy fun, and then we all learn something and do better. So, all right. Well, thank you, everyone. Oh, my goodness. Thanks for sharing the bare naked truth about love, sex, and relationships, and specifically porn with us today. I'm Beth Darling, your sexy genius from sexyedschool.com. Please go sign up for the email newsletter at sexyedschool.com. You'll get a free erotic story. And go ahead and check out some of the classes we've got. We've got the oral classes I mentioned before, and men, how to increase your increase your orgasm by even up to 10 times through prostate massage. So, all right, I'm Beth Darling. Big hugs and kisses. We will talk to you soon.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Come With Us podcast. Be sure to follow us on social media at Come With Us Podcast and send in your questions, comments, and confessions to comewithusconfessions@gmail.com. Until next time, keep it fun, flirty, and naughty.